Drin Halverson wiped the sweat from his brow, the heat of the scrap yard pressing down on him like a heavy hand. The twin suns of Luther, 7, blazed overhead, their unrelenting light reflecting off twisted metal and shattered circuitry. The air was thick with the acrid scent of rust and burned-out wiring. Drin had been on Luther 7 for 3 years now, working as a mechanic for whatever shipwrecked travelers, desperate smugglers, or down-on-their-luck traders needed repairs. He didn't ask questions. He just fixed what was broken, took his payment, and moved on. The less he knew about the people who came through his shop, the fewer problems he had. He lived on the outskirts of Junker's Hollow, a settlement that had sprung up around the massive scrap fields left behind from an ancient war between the Carthari Dominion and the Ocean Federation. No one remembered who won, but the graveyard of star ships remained. It was a lawless place where scavengers picked apart the remains of long-forgotten vessels and sold whatever still had value. Drin had found his niche here, salvaging ship parts and repairing engines, but he kept to himself. The only company he had was his aging repair bot, CL-9, which was more rust than metal these days. "Boss, heat signatures detected near the perimeter," CL-9 chimed in, its monotone voice crackling from years of neglect. Drin sighed. Probably another scavenger looking to loot his scrapyard. He grabbed his plasma cutter and stepped outside, scanning the yard. The sun cast long shadows over the wreckage, making it difficult to see. Then he heard it, a faint whimper, almost lost in the wind. He followed the sound, weaving through stacks of hull, plating, and discarded engine parts until he reached the source. At first, he thought it was just another pile of junk, but as he got closer, he saw the shape of a cage, half buried under debris. Inside, a small creature huddled against the metal bars. Drin frowned. It looked like some kind of wolf cub, but its fur was an unnatural shade of deep silver, and its eyes glowed faintly in the dim light. It was shackled, a heavy chain bolted to the bottom of the cage. The creature looked malnourished, its ribs pressing against its thin skin. Drin knelt, setting his plasma cutter aside. "Who the hell left you out here?" he muttered. The cub whimpered again, weakly pulling at the chain. Drin examined the locking mechanism, alien tech, something high-end. Whoever had left this thing behind hadn't wanted it getting free. Drin had seen enough cruelty in his life. He wasn't about to let some defenseless creature die in his scrapyard. He fired up the plasma cutter and pressed it to the chain. The metal glowed white-hot before snapping apart. The cub flinched but didn't run. It simply stared at him, those glowing eyes filled with something Drin couldn't quite place. "Come on, kid," Drin said, holding out his hand. The cub hesitated, then took a shaky step forward. Just as Drin reached for it, a guttural snarl cut through the air. He spun around, heart hammering in his chest. Emerging from the shadows was a towering figure clad in dark, segmented armor. An alien, one of the Korvek, a species known for their cruelty and lack of mercy. Their elongated skulls and serrated mandibles made them look more like nightmares than living beings. Drin recognized the insignia on the alien's armor. A bounty hunter. "Step away from the cub, human," the Korvek growled, its voice like grinding metal. Drin clenched his fists. He didn't know what he had just stumbled into, but one thing was clear. The cub was never meant to be rescued. And now, he had made himself a target. The Korvek reached for a weapon, and Drin knew he had only seconds to act. He scooped up the cub, its small body trembling in his arms, and bolted for his workshop. Plasma fire scorched the air behind him, barely missing as he ducked behind a pile of scrap. CL-9 whirred to life, its old targeting sensors locking onto the approaching bounty hunter. "Defense mode activated," the bot announced, its voice lacking urgency, but its arm-mounted blaster charging up. Drin didn't wait to see how the fight would go. He had a ship in the hangar, a junker, but still space-worthy. He needed to get off-world. Now, clutching the cub tightly, he sprinted through the scrapyard, the sounds of battle ringing behind him. Plasma bolts illuminated the night as CL-9 engaged the bounty hunter, but Drin knew the old bot wouldn't last long. He reached his ship, a battered but functional freighter, and slammed his palm against the controls, opening the hatch. The cub whimpered in his arms as he set it down on the cockpit floor and fired up the engines. The ship rumbled to life just as another plasma bolt struck the hull. The Corvette was getting closer. Drin grabbed the controls, his heart pounding. "Hold on, kid," he muttered. The engines roared, and the freighter lifted off, ascending into the atmosphere. The bounty hunter fired a final shot, but it was too late. They were already breaking through the clouds. Drin exhaled sharply, glancing down at the cub. It stared back at him, its glowing eyes wide with something that looked a lot like trust. "What the hell did I just get myself into?" Drin muttered. He had no idea what this cub was or why it had been chained up in a scrapyard. But one thing was certain. Whoever wanted it back wasn't going to stop coming after them, and he wasn't about to let them win. Varen gritted his teeth as he crouched beside the whimpering wolf pup, his fingers gently working at the cruel metal collar fastened around its neck. The thick chain, rusted and caked with dry blood, connected to a heavy steel bolt hammered into the stone floor of the alley. His stomach twisted with rage. What kind of monster would do this to a baby animal? The pup barely reacted, too weak to resist. Its fur, a dark silver with streaks of black, was matted with filth. The poor thing was barely breathing, ribs jutting out beneath the dirt. It had been here for days, abandoned by an owner who hadn't cared if it lived or died. Varen wiped sweat from his brow and glanced around. The neon lights of the back streets flickered in dull shades of violet and green, casting eerie shadows along the damp alley walls. He didn't have much time. Anyone could stumble across him here, and in a district like this, a lone human bent over an alien creature wouldn't exactly go unnoticed. His wrench wasn't helping. The collar was locked tight, fused with some kind of crude biometrics that must have responded only to its original owner. He had seen these kinds of restraints before, illegal, designed for cruelty, not security. The pup trembled as Varen worked. "Easy, little guy," he murmured. "We're getting you out of here." The pup cracked open one eye, golden and sharp, despite the exhaustion clouding it. There was something eerily intelligent in its gaze. Not just desperation, but something deeper. It tried to lift its head, but the chain was too heavy. Varen's jaw clenched. He didn't have time to be delicate. He reached for his plasma torch. The moment the blue-white flame ignited, the pup flinched, ears flattening. Varen worked quickly, the metal heating, sizzling as the lock warped. A shudder ran through the pup's body, a feeble attempt to move. Then from deeper in the alley, a voice growled. "What the hell do you think you're doing, human?" Varen snapped his head up, the torch flickering in his grip. A large figure loomed at the alley's entrance, silhouetted by the neon glow of the street beyond. Varen recognized the species instantly. A Grawl, a massive, reptilian alien with thick, knotted muscles and a maw full of jagged teeth. The bastard was wearing a patchwork vest of mercenary leathers, a belt studded with weapons, and a wicked grin. His blood turned to ice. The Grawl took a step forward, claws clicking on the stone floor. "That's my property you're messing with." Varen tightened his grip on the plasma torch. "This animal isn't property." The Grawl snorted. "Sure it is. Bought him fair and square, right out of a lab. Was supposed to be a fighter, but turns out the runt's useless. Can't even bite back. So I left him here to see if he'd learn." The grin widened. "Or die. Looks like you're interfering." Varen's fists clenched. He was no stranger to the cruel underbelly of alien society. But this was different. "You don't deserve to own anything living," he said, voice low, controlled. The Grawl's expression darkened. "You got a big mouth, human. You really think you can just walk out of here with my wolf?" Varen kept his stance relaxed, but his mind was already racing. He was armed, but against a Grawl, a fight would be suicide. His best bet was getting out fast. The pup whined softly, shifting against the floor. It was still too weak to stand. Varen's eyes darted to the torch. The chain was nearly cut through. Just a little more. The Grawl moved first. He lunged, claws swiping through the air, but Varen was already rolling to the side. The plasma torch clattered against the stone as Varen's hand shot to his hip, pulling out his sidearm in one swift motion. He fired. A bolt of ion energy crackled against the Graal's thick hide, staggering him but not stopping him. Bad choice. The Graal snarled, eyes flashing with fury. Varen didn't wait for the counterattack. He dove for the plasma torch, grabbing it just as the Graal charged. At the last second, he twisted, driving the white-hot flame into the chain's final weak link. The metal snapped. The pup collapsed, free but unmoving. Varen barely had time to scoop the small body into his arms before the Graal swung. He dodged mostly. The alien's claws raked across his shoulder, burning hot pain slicing through fabric and flesh. Varen gritted his teeth against the pain, forcing himself into motion. He spun, using the momentum to kick the Graal's knee. The alien stumbled, but it wasn't enough. "Run, human," the Graal sneered. "See how far you get." Varen didn't hesitate. He bolted. The streets blurred past as he sprinted, the pup held tightly against his chest. Behind him, he heard the Graal roar in anger. He turned a corner sharply, slipping into the maze-like back alleys of the city's lower sector. His shoulder throbbed, blood seeping into his jacket. But he didn't stop. He needed to get the hell out, and he needed to keep this pup alive. Varen's boots pounded against the cracked pavement as he weaved through the narrow alleys. The baby wolf clutched tightly against his chest. The pup barely moved, its frail body weak from starvation and neglect. His breath came in ragged bursts, his wounded shoulder burning with every movement. He didn't know how far he had to run, only that if the Graal caught him, neither of them would make it out alive. Behind him, the alien's heavy footsteps echoed through the streets. "You can't run forever, human," the Graal bellowed, his voice thick with rage. Varen clenched his teeth. He needed to lose him, fast. Ahead, the alley split into two paths, one leading to the open streets, where security drones patrolled, and the other vanishing into the deeper slums, a labyrinth of shadows and steel. Instinct took over. He turned right, vanishing into the maze of abandoned structures. The slums were dangerous, a lawless sector where the poorest and most desperate of the galaxy gathered. If he wasn't careful, he could run into something worse than the Graal. But he had no choice. He ducked under a collapsed scaffold, squeezing through a narrow gap between two rusted buildings. His wounded shoulder screamed in protest, but he pushed forward. The pup whimpered softly in his arms. "Almost there, little guy," Varen murmured. He didn't know where there was, but he had to believe he could find safety somewhere. For a moment, silence. Then, crash. The wall behind him exploded into debris as the Graal smashed through, his massive frame barely slowed by the wreckage. Varen cursed. The bastard was relentless. "No more running," the Graal growled. "You think you can steal from me and get away?" Varen's grip tightened on the pup. "He's not yours." The alien bared his jagged teeth. "Fine. I'll just take him from your corpse." Varen barely had time to react. The Graal lunged, closing the distance in a blur of muscle and claws. Varen dropped low at the last second, rolling beneath the attack. His back hit the cold pavement as he fumbled for his gun. Too slow. The Graal's foot slammed into his gut, knocking the air from his lungs. Varen gasped, his vision flickering with pain. The pup tumbled from his grasp, rolling a few feet away. Varen tried to move, but the Graal's foot came down on his chest, pinning him to the ground. The weight was unbearable. His ribs creaked under the pressure. "You should have walked away," the alien sneered. His claws flexed, ready to strike. Varen braced himself, but before the killing blow landed, a deep, guttural growl filled the air. The pup, the tiny, half-starved creature that had barely been able to lift its head minutes ago, was standing. Varen's breath caught. The golden eyes that had seemed dull and clouded before now burned with something raw, something primal. The air around them seemed to shift. The Graal hesitated. What the hell? The pup took a step forward, then another. Its body trembled, not from weakness, but from something else. A low, eerie hum filled the air, vibrating against Varen's skull. And then, the change happened. The pup's body glowed. A faint, silver luminescence spread across its fur, like moonlight seeping from within. Its small frame stretched, bones shifting with an unsettling crack. The air itself shook. The Grawl staggered back, eyes wide with shock. What is this? Varen could only watch in stunned silence as the tiny, helpless wolf grew. Flesh and bone twisted, reshaping. The thin, frail limbs became powerful and lean. The stubby tail elongated, thickening into something more prehensile, almost serpent-like. Its snout sharpened, fangs elongating. And its eyes? The pup's golden eyes burned like twin suns, locking onto the Grawl. Varen barely had time to register the transformation before the newly formed beast moved. It was fast. One moment it stood beside Varen. The next, it was on the Grawl, its powerful jaws clamping down on the alien's arm. The Grawl screamed. Varen scrambled to his feet, heart hammering. The once starving pup now stood as a massive wolf-like predator, its body crackling with raw energy. The Grawl swung wildly, trying to shake the creature off, but the beast was relentless. Its claws ripped through flesh, tearing deep gashes into the alien's thick hide. The fight didn't last long. The Grawl, bleeding and broken, collapsed to the ground, panting heavily. His remaining arm twitched as he tried to crawl away, fear now replacing his arrogance. The wolf growled low, stepping forward, ready to finish him. Varen swallowed hard. He had seen many things in his time as a mechanic. Alien ships, war-torn worlds, strange creatures. But this? He had no idea what the hell he had just saved. And as the wolf turned its gaze to him, eyes burning with something ancient and unreadable, Varen knew one thing for certain. This was only the beginning. Varen stood frozen, his heart pounding. The beast that had once been a frail, dying pup now towered over him. Its sleek, silver-streaked fur shimmered under the dim light, its massive form pulsing with some kind of energy he couldn't comprehend. It wasn't just a wolf. It was something more. The Grawl groaned, still sprawled on the ground, his massive body trembling. His arm, what was left of it, twitched uselessly at his side. Blood pooled beneath him, thick and dark. His arrogance was gone. Now there was only fear. The wolf, if it could still be called that, took a slow, deliberate step toward the wounded alien. Varen's gut twisted. He didn't care much for the Grawl. The bastard had beaten a helpless creature, left it to die in chains. If anyone deserved what was coming, it was him. And yet, something in the way the beast moved sent a chill down Varen's spine. It wasn't just hunting. It wasn't even angry. It was something far worse. It was calm, predatory, purposeful, and it was about to kill. Varen's body moved before his mind had time to think. He threw himself between the wolf and the Grawl, arms spread wide. That's enough. The wolf stopped. The air crackled with energy, as if the very atoms around them had paused, waiting. Golden eyes locked onto Varen's, sharp and unreadable. There was no growl, no snarl, no sign of frustration, just an eerie, unnerving stillness. Varen swallowed hard. He's done. He's not a threat anymore. The wolf's gaze flicked down to the Grawl, then back to Varen. It tilted its head slightly like it was thinking. Could it even understand him? The tension stretched unbearably long. Then, the beast exhaled sharply, a low huff of air, and took a step back. Varen let out a breath he hadn't realized he was holding. The Grawl whimpered, scrambling backward until he was pressed against the crumbling wall. That thing isn't normal. His voice was barely above a whisper, filled with horror. No kidding, Varen muttered. He turned to the wolf. What the hell are you? The beast simply stared at him. And then, in the blink of an eye, it shrunk. Varen blinked. The transformation was almost seamless, like watching water flow in reverse. The powerful frame condensed, fur shifting, bones rearranging, until the towering predator was gone. And in its place, the pup stood once more, still a little bigger than before, still glowing faintly with that strange silver light. But it was the same pup he had saved. Varen exhaled. His head was spinning. The Grawl, now fully realizing he had lost, glared at them both, his breathing ragged. You have no idea what you've done, human. Varen scoffed. I saved a pup from an asshole. That about sums it up. The Graal's lips curled into something between a grimace and a bitter grin. You think it's just a pup? His bloodied hand trembled as he gestured toward the small creature. You think that thing is some stray animal? Varen tensed. What do you mean? The Graal coughed, spitting blood. That's no ordinary wolf. It's a Zarian. His eyes flickered with something strange. Fear, yes, but also something deeper. An extinction-level creature. One that shouldn't even exist anymore. Varen frowned. Never heard of him. The Graal let out a hollow laugh. No one has, because they were wiped out thousands of years ago. His voice dropped lower, turning into a whisper. And yet here it is, alive. Varen looked down at the pup. It sat by his feet, watching the Graal with unblinking golden eyes. He looked back at the alien. You're saying this little guy is some kind of ancient monster? The Graal shook his head. No, worse. He winced, trying to push himself upright. The Zarians weren't just predators. They were the apex of their kind. Intelligent, adaptive, and nearly impossible to kill. He swallowed hard. They were wiped out for a reason. Varen frowned. If they were so dangerous, then why was this one chained up like a dying stray? The Graal hesitated, and in that hesitation, Varen knew. He knew. The Graal had no idea how powerful the pup was. He had beaten it, starved it, left it for dead, because he thought it was weak, because he had no clue what it really was. Varen clenched his jaw. You didn't know, did you? The Graal's silence was answer enough. Varen exhaled. His mind raced. If this was true, if this pup really was some kind of long-extinct apex predator, then this wasn't just about saving an abused animal anymore. This was bigger. Much, much bigger. The Graal chuckled weakly. It doesn't matter now. You can't keep it. The council will come for you. The hunters will come for you. And when they find out what you're protecting, he grinned through the pain. They'll burn your entire planet to the ground. A chill ran through Varen's spine. He believed him. He didn't want to, but he did. This wasn't just a rare animal. It was something that could shake the entire galaxy. And now, it was his responsibility. He looked down at the pup. It looked back at him. And in those golden, too intelligent eyes, he saw something terrifying. Recognition. It knew. It understood. And it had chosen him. Varen swallowed hard. Well, guess I'm screwed then. The Graal laughed darkly. You have no idea. Varen cracked his knuckles. Then I'd better get a head start. Without another word, he turned on his heel, scooped up the pup, and ran. Behind him, the Graal's ragged laughter echoed into the night. And somewhere, deep in the heart of the galaxy, something woke up. Varen sprinted through the ruined marketplace. The pup clutched tightly against his chest. It didn't struggle. It didn't whimper. It simply rested against him, eerily calm, as if it knew what was coming next. The Graal's words still echoed in his head. The council will come for you. The hunters will come for you. They'll burn your entire planet to the ground. He didn't know if the bastard was bluffing. Didn't know if this Zarian, whatever that meant, was really as dangerous as he claimed. But his gut told him one thing for sure. He couldn't stay here. The slums of Zarian, for a maze of half-collapsed buildings and rusted-out starships, a tangled mess of steel and dust. The perfect place to lose someone. The perfect place to disappear. But it wouldn't last forever. Varen skidded around a corner, boots kicking up dust. He needed to get off-world. Fast. His ship, the Iron Widow, was docked at the southern end of the scrapyard. If he could just make it there, a roar split the air behind him. His stomach dropped. The Graal had friends. He risked a glance over his shoulder and swore. A squad of heavily armored mercenaries was pushing through the ruins, weapons drawn. Their armor was sleek, black, and unmarked professional. The kind of soldiers that didn't ask questions. The kind that were paid to kill first. And they were gaining. Varen gritted his teeth. Hold on, pup. The creature let out a small, almost curious whine. Then he ran. The scrapyard, docking bay 6. Varen burst through the gate at full speed, lungs burning. The Iron Widow sat at the far end of the lot, its battered hull barely visible through the thick smog. Almost there. Almost. A shot rang out. Varen dove. A bolt of searing plasma tore through the air where his head had been a second ago. He hit the ground hard, rolling, shielding the pup with his body. The creature let out a soft huff, seemingly unfazed. Varen grunted, pushing himself up. No time to stop. The mercs were already closing in, their boots clanking against the metal catwalks. One of them raised a rifle. Varen threw himself forward, sprinting for the ramp. The ship's hatch was already open. He slapped the emergency override, practically leaping inside as the doors slammed shut behind him. He didn't stop running, didn't look back. He bolted for the cockpit, dumped the pup into the co-pilot's seat, and started flipping switches. Engines hummed to life. Systems came online. The ship shuddered as its thrusters cycled up. Outside, the mercs were shouting, scrambling for cover. A few of them were already aiming for the ship. Varen didn't wait. He punched the throttle. With a deafening roar, the Iron Widow lurched into the sky, engines screaming as it rocketed upward. They were airborne, but they weren't safe. Not yet. Orbit, Zirian, 4 airspace. The moment they cleared the atmosphere, the alarm screamed. Varen cursed, slamming his fists against the console. Ships. 3 of them. Sleek black fighters moving fast. Too fast. The mercs had called for backup. Varen's hands flew over the controls. He yanked the ship into a hard bank, thrusters flaring as plasma bolts streaked past the hull. "This is bad," he muttered. The pup cocked its head. Varen gripped the controls tighter. "Yeah, I know you don't understand, but..." A missile lock warning blared. His stomach dropped. Then, a soft growl rumbled beside him. Varen barely had time to glance at the pup before the air crackled. The ship's interior shifted. Something unseen, something powerful, rippled through the cockpit, like a low-frequency vibration, a force just on the edge of perception. Then, the missile warning vanished. Varen blinked. What the? He looked at the radar. The missile was gone. Not dodged. Not jammed. Gone. Erased. He turned, slowly. The pup sat calmly in the co-pilot's seat, its golden eyes glowing faintly. Varen's breath caught. "Did you do that?" The pup tilted its head. Varen swallowed hard. This wasn't just an animal. It wasn't even just some ancient predator. It was something more, and it had just saved his life. Another warning flashed. The fighters were closing in. Varen made a decision. "All right, kid," he muttered. "Let's see what else you can do." The pup blinked. Then, the ship vanished. Not cloaked. Not hidden. Gone. The mercenaries would never find them. And somewhere deep in the galaxy, the ones who had been waiting for this moment finally took notice. The Iron Widow drifted in absolute silence. No alarms. No engine hum. No radar pings. It wasn't just hidden. It was outside the reach of detection, as if it had ceased to exist entirely. Varen sat frozen in the pilot's seat, staring at the pup. No, the being beside him. The golden-eyed creature blinked back, completely unfazed, as if phasing a starship out of reality was as simple as taking a breath. Varen's mind raced. What the hell had just happened? No stealth tech in a universe could pull off something like that. He knew every trick in the book: sensor jammers, cloaking fields, subspace distorters. None of them worked this way. But the truth was staring him right in the face. The pup had done it. Somehow, in a way Varen didn't understand, it had bent reality itself. His fingers tightened on the armrest. "Okay," he said slowly. "Time for some answers." The pup just blinked. Varen ran a hand down his face. What are you?" For a long moment there was nothing. No sound. No movement. Just the distant stars, frozen in the viewport like scattered diamonds. Then, a voice. Not words. Not speech. Something deeper. Older. "You already know." Varen stiffened. The voice hadn't come through his ears. It had spoken directly into his mind. He swallowed hard. "That was you." A pause. Then, "Yes." Varen's throat went dry. He wasn't talking to an animal. He wasn't even talking to an advanced predator. He was talking to something else entirely. He inhaled sharply. "The Grawl called you a Zarian." The pup. "No." The Zarian cocked its head. "That is a word. A name. It is not what I am." Varen hesitated. "Then what are you?" The pup blinked. Then very slowly it smiled. And for the first time, Varen felt the full weight of the creature beside him. Not in size. Not in strength. In presence. It was vast. Ancient. a being that existed beyond the limitations of flesh and time. It had a physical form, but it didn't need one. Varen's pulse pounded. He had rescued this thing from chains, from a Grawl slaver who hadn't understood what he was holding. But now, as the weight of its presence settled over him, he had the sinking realization that he wasn't the rescuer in this story. He was the one being watched, chosen. The Zarian blinked again, and the immense pressure lifted. It was a pup, a baby, but that meant somewhere out there, somewhere in the deep, lightless void of space. There were more like it, and if this infant could phase a starship out of reality with a simple thought, what could a full-grown Zarian do? Varen exhaled shakily. Where did you come from? The pup turned its gaze toward the viewport, toward the stars stretching endlessly beyond. I was lost. Now I am found. A chill ran down Varen's spine. This wasn't over. It was just beginning. 1 month later, edge of the Galactic Council's reach. The Iron Widow sat docked at a shadow port, hidden deep within the ruins of an ancient station. The galaxy had noticed what had happened on Zirian 4. Varen had heard the whispers in the underworld. The Mercs hadn't just disappeared. Their ships had been found drifting in deep space. Their crews vanished without a trace. Some said it was a warning. Others claimed it was an act of retribution from something ancient. But the truth? The truth was sitting right in his co-pilot's seat, staring at him with those unnerving golden eyes. Varen had tried to leave the pup behind. Twice. Both times, it had found him again. And deep down, he knew why. This wasn't just about some abandoned creature. This was destiny. The galaxy didn't know it yet, but something was coming. Something old. Something that had been asleep for far too long. And the humans? The stubborn, reckless, never-say-die humans? They had just become part of it. Centuries later, Galactic archives. The historian scrolled through the fractured records, piecing together what little remained of the old human myths. The Zarian War, the lost ships, the shadow beasts that devoured planets whole, and, of course, the human who had started it all. He paused at the final entry, a phrase carved into the ruins of an ancient world. No date, no author, no surviving records, just a warning, a truth whispered across time, carried by the void itself. Never chain a wolf. And somewhere, beyond the reaches of history, the stars watched and waited. The end. That's it. Humanity just got itself tangled in something way bigger than it realized. This story leaves room for a sequel, but also stands alone as a legend passed down across time. Let me know what you think.